The lights in the council chamber were too bright. Tay Park had noticed this the first time he entered the massive room, and he noticed it again today. Everything about this place was designed to make humans feel small. The ceiling stretched so high above that he could barely see it. The seats for the council members rose in circles around the center floor, reaching up and up until the highest ones disappeared into the brightness. 2,000 species had representatives here. 2,000 civilizations that had traveled the stars long before Earth learned to make fire. Tay stood in the center of it all. He was 63 years old, with gray hair at his temples and lines on his face from too many years of difficult decisions. He wore Earth's diplomatic uniform, a simple blue suit with a small flag on the shoulder. Around him, the other species wore incredible things. Some had armor that seemed to be made of living crystal, others appeared to be made of pure light. One representative looked like a floating collection of geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. The voice came from everywhere at once. Ambassador Park of Earth, you have been summoned to hear the judgment of the council. Tay looked up at the 5 central seats where the Council Supreme sat. These were the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. One looked like a tree made of silver. Another seemed to be a cloud of particles that occasionally formed into something like a face. The others were equally strange and equally ancient. Humanity is accused of nothing, Tay said carefully. His voice echoed in the enormous space. Why do we need judgment? You misunderstand, the silver tree said. Its voice sounded like wind through metal leaves. This is not about crimes. This is about survival. The Vrex Collective has declared war on your species. Tay felt his stomach drop, but he kept his face calm. He had been a soldier before he became a diplomat. He knew how to hide fear. The Vrex? Why would they declare war on us? We have never even met them. A new figure stood up in one of the lower seats. It was massive, easily 3 meters tall, covered in dark red scales that looked like armor. Its eyes glowed with an orange light. Because you are weak, it said. The translator made its voice sound like grinding stones. Because you are new. Because your pathetic little worlds will make good breeding planets once we remove you from them. War Prince Threx, the silver tree said, and there was warning in its voice. You are not given permission to speak. I need no permission to speak truth, Threx replied. He looked down at Tay with what might have been amusement. Humanity will be swept aside like cosmic dust. Your 100 years in space mean nothing. We have conquered empires 1,000,000 years old. What chance do you think you have? Tay looked at the Council Supreme, not at Threx. What does the Council say about this declaration of war? There was a long pause. Finally, a voice like music answered. It came from Velamora, a being that looked almost human except for the fact that she seemed to glow from within. The Council's law is clear, Ambassador Park. We do not interfere in conflicts between member species and non-protected civilizations. Humanity joined the galactic community only 100 years ago. You are not yet under our protection. I see, Tay said quietly. And how long do we have? The Vrex have agreed to give you 10 standard cycles, the silver tree said. This is time enough to evacuate your worlds. The Council will provide transport ships and assistance in relocating your population to designated refugee zones. Very generous, Tay said, and he could not quite keep the bitterness from his voice. Tell me, how many species have survived a war with the Vrex? No one answered for a moment. Then Velmora spoke again, and her voice was softer now. In the last 1,000 years, the Vrex have fought 14 species. None survived longer than 30 cycles. Most surrendered within days. Tay nodded slowly. He touched the small communication device in his ear. Admiral Kang, are you receiving this? A voice replied in Korean, quiet enough that only Tay could hear through his implant. Every word, Ambassador. The fleet is ready. Good, Tay murmured. He looked up at the Council again, and now he smiled. It was not a happy smile. The Council is very kind to offer us refuge, but humanity must respectfully decline. The chamber erupted. 2,000 species all began talking at once. The sound was incredible, a wall of noise in languages that made no sense to human ears. The translator in Ty's ear struggled to keep up, feeding him fragments of conversation. They're insane. They don't understand what they're facing. Poor creatures. They'll be extinct within days. The silver tree raised something like a hand, and silence fell immediately. Ambassador Park, perhaps you did not understand. The Vrex will not accept surrender once they begin their assault. If you do not evacuate, your species will be destroyed. I understood perfectly, Tay said. Humanity will defend our worlds. That is our decision, Threx laughed. The sound was terrible, like rocks grinding together. Defend with what? We have 3,000 warships. Your entire fleet could not fill one of our carrier bays. You have no defense platforms, no shields that can withstand our weapons, no warriors who can match ours. This is not bravery, little human. This is suicide. Tay looked at the Vrex war prince for a long moment. Then he said very calmly, "Perhaps, but it is our choice to make." He turned to leave, walking toward the exit. Behind him the chamber filled with sound again. He could hear some species laughing. Others were already discussing how to divide up human territory once Earth fell. A few sounded sad, as if they were mourning something already lost. Only Velmora was silent. She watched the human ambassador walk away, and her glowing eyes were troubled. She had studied Earth's history as part of her diplomatic training. She had read about their wars, their struggles, their refusal to ever give up even when defeat seemed certain. The other council members saw humanity as children playing at civilization. But Velmora had seen something else in the records. She had seen a species that had climbed to the top of their food chain, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they never stopped fighting. As Tay reached the door, he paused and looked back one more time. "Council Supreme," he called out. "A question, if I may?" "Speak," the silver tree said. "In all your long histories, in all the millions of years your civilizations have existed, how many times have you had to fight for your survival? How many times have you faced extinction and refused to accept it?" The chamber was quiet now. No one answered. Tay nodded. "Humanity has faced extinction 100 times in our short history. We faced ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and our own destructive nature. We have died by the billions. We have seen our cities burn and our people suffer, and every single time we survived. Not because we ran away, not because someone saved us, but because we fought with everything we had." He smiled again, and this time there was something cold in it. "You will see, Council Supreme. You will all see what humanity is capable of when we decide that running is not an option." Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft sound that seemed too quiet for such an important moment. In the council chamber, Velmora continued to stare at the closed door. Around her, the other species were already losing interest, already certain of humanity's fate. But she could not shake the feeling that something important had just happened. Something that would change the galaxy forever. She just did not know how right she was. The Vrex Armada arrived at New Sol exactly when they said they would. 3,000 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Each ship was enormous, larger than the biggest space stations humanity had ever built. Their hulls were covered in weapons, thousands of guns that could tear through metal and shields like they were paper. On the planet below, Admiral Day Ko watched the sensor readings and felt his mouth go dry. He was young for an admiral, only 35, with dark hair and quick eyes that never stopped moving. He had been given command of New Sol's defense because he was good at finding solutions to impossible problems. Right now he needed to find a solution to this. "Sir," his second officer said. Her voice was shaking slightly. "They're launching fighters. Estimate 10,000 small craft heading our way." Day nodded slowly. "Sound the evacuation alarm. Get everyone who can't fight into the underground shelters. Everyone else goes to their stations." He touched his communication panel. "All ships, this is Admiral Ko. Execute Defense Plan Omega." Around the planet, human ships began to move. There were only 50 of them, small destroyers and frigates that looked like toys compared to the Vrex warships. The Council observers watching from their safe position at the edge of the system probably thought this would be over in minutes. They were wrong. The first Vrex fighters entered the atmosphere, diving toward the cities below. But before they could reach their targets, the sky itself seemed to explode. Hidden weapons fired from what had looked like empty mountains. Satellites that had appeared to be communications equipment revealed themselves as missile platforms. The asteroids orbiting the planet, which everyone had thought were being mined for resources, opened up to show massive guns. The Vrex lost 300 fighters in the first 30 seconds. War Prince Threx, watching from his flagship, felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Surprise. "What is this?" he demanded. "Intelligence said this world had minimal defenses. They lied about their capabilities," his tactical officer said. "Or we failed to see what was there." "Continue the assault," Threx ordered. "We have 10,000 fighters. They have revealed their hidden weapons. Now we know where they are. Destroy them all. The battle continued for 6 hours. It was brutal and terrible. The Vrex had more ships, more weapons, and more experience. But the humans fought like they were defending the last place in the universe. Every building was a fortress. Every civilian had a weapon. When Vrex ground troops landed, they found themselves fighting not just soldiers but teachers, doctors, and children old enough to hold a gun. Admiral Day Ko directed the defense from his command ship, moving his vessels like pieces on a chessboard. When the Vrex expected him to retreat, he attacked. When they thought he would fight directly, he used tricks and traps. His ships were smaller and weaker, but they were faster. They knew the space around their home better than any invader could, but it was not enough. Slowly, inevitably, the Vrex pushed forward. They lost ships more than they expected, but they had ships to spare. The humans did not. "Sir," Day's second officer said quietly, "we've lost contact with the surface. The last defense battery just went offline." Day looked at his screens. 30 of his 50 ships were gone. The planet below was burning. He had maybe an hour left before the Vrex overwhelmed everything. "Execute Protocol 0, he said quietly. "Sir, I know what it is," Day interrupted. "Do it." Protocol 0 was simple. It was also insane. Every human ship still capable of moving turned and flew directly at the Vrex flagship. They did not fire weapons. They did not try to dodge. They just accelerated to maximum speed, heading straight for Threx's massive vessel like bullets. Threx watched them come and felt that unfamiliar emotion again. Not surprised this time, respect. "They're going to ram us," he said. "All of them. Should we retreat?" His tactical officer asked. "No," Threx said. "We will honor their courage by destroying them properly. All weapons, fire." The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. 17 human ships died before they could reach their target, but 3 made it through. They crashed into the Vrex flagship's shield at incredible speed. The shield held for 2 impacts. On the third, it flickered and failed. Alarms screamed throughout the Vrex ship. Threx gripped his command chair as the entire vessel shook. "Damage report!" "Shield generator offline. Hull breaches on multiple decks. We're venting atmosphere." Threx looked at the debris field that had been human ships. Only one was still intact, tumbling slowly through space. "Finish them," he ordered. "Then we take the planet." But as the Vrex moved to deliver the final blow, something unexpected happened. The human ship that had been tumbling suddenly came to life. Its engines fired and it turned. From its broken hull, a single missile launched. On that missile's side were written 3 words in English: "Remember New Soul." The missile struck the Vrex flagship where the shields were already down. It carried a nuclear warhead, primitive by galactic standards but still devastating. The explosion tore through 5 decks, killing hundreds of Vrex warriors and nearly reaching the engine room. Threx watched his screens fill with damage warnings. Around the planet, the few surviving human defenders had retreated underground. The planet was his, but it had cost him 200 ships. 200 ships to take 1 minor human colony. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "should we pursue the survivors?" "No," Threx said slowly. "We take the planet. We claim our victory." But as he said it, he was thinking about the numbers. Humanity had hundreds of worlds. If each one cost him 200 ships, he would run out of ships before they ran out of worlds. Far from the battle, in a secret location behind Earth's moon, Captain J. Lim watched the same data. He was older than Day Ko, a man in his 50s with steady hands and calm eyes. Around him, construction bays stretched for kilometers in every direction. Inside those bays, ships were being built, thousands of ships. "New Soul has fallen," someone said quietly. Jay nodded. "Admiral Ko and most of his people made it to the shelters before the end. They'll survive as prisoners until we can free them." He looked at the ships being assembled around him. "How long until the fleet is ready?" 3 more cycles, the construction coordinator said. "Maybe 2 if we push the workers harder." "Don't push them," Jay said. "Let them work at a steady pace. We have time." He smiled slightly. "The Vrex think they're winning. Let them think that for a while longer." Back at the council chambers, the observers were sending their reports. The message was clear. Humanity had fought better than expected, but they had still lost. 1 colony down, hundreds to go. The galaxy began to prepare for humanity's extinction. Only Velmora was uncertain. She read the reports carefully, noting strange details. The humans had hidden weapons everywhere. They had fought longer than any previous Vrex victim. They had damaged a Vrex flagship, something no other species had managed in centuries, and most interesting of all, their communications had been completely encrypted. The Council's technology, which could break any code in the known galaxy, could not read a single human message. She requested a meeting with Ambassador Tay Park. To her surprise, he accepted immediately. They met in a small room in the diplomatic sector. Tay looked tired but not defeated. He offered her tea, which she accepted even though her species did not drink. "New Sol has fallen," she said gently. "I know," Tay replied. "We expected it to." "Then why did you not evacuate?" Tay was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Tell me, Velmora, how long has the Council existed?" 15 million years. "And in all that time, how many wars have you fought?" "Few," she admitted. "The Council maintains peace." "Exactly," Tay said. "You have forgotten what war really means. You think it's about winning every battle. It's not. War is about will. It's about making your enemy pay such a high price that they start to question if victory is worth the cost." He sipped his tea. "New Sol cost the Vrex 200 ships. They have 200 fewer ships now, and they learned that humans will not surrender easily. They still have nearly 3,000 ships," Velmora pointed out. "For now," Tay said, and he smiled. War Prince Threx stood before the Council and declared victory. His image was projected into the chamber, huge and imposing. "Humanity's outer colonies have fallen," he announced. 3 more worlds have surrendered. The humans retreat before us like frightened animals. In 20 cycles, perhaps less, Earth itself will be mine." The Council members murmured among themselves. Ambassador Tay Park sat in the visitors section, listening quietly. His face showed nothing. "Ambassador Park," the Silver Tree said, "do you wish to respond to these claims?" Tay stood slowly. "War Prince Threx is correct that he has taken some of our colonies. He is incorrect about everything else." He looked directly at Threx's projection. "Tell the Council how many ships you have lost, War Prince." Threx's eyes narrowed. "Losses are part of war. 800 ships," Tay said calmly. "You started with 3,000. Now you have 2,200. At this rate, you will run out of ships before you reach Earth." "Lies," Threx snarled. "We have reinforcements coming. 5,000 more ships from my home territories. When they arrive, your pathetic resistance will end. Then I suppose we should finish this before they get here," Tay said. He touched his communication device. "Admiral Kang, you may begin." In the Council chamber, nothing happened. But across the galaxy, everything changed. The Vrex Armada was approaching Mars, humanity's second-largest colony. They expected resistance, but not much. Intelligence said Mars had even fewer defenses than New Sol. The fleet moved forward confidently. Then space itself seemed to come alive. From behind Mars's moons, ships appeared. Hundreds of them. From the asteroid belt, more ships emerged. They had been hiding there for years. Painted to look like rocks, their engines cold and silent. Now they woke up. Admiral Wu Kang commanded from the Earth Defense Station. He was an old man, 70 years old, with white hair and a face carved by decades of military service. He had fought in Earth's last great war before first contact. He had learned his lessons well. "All ships," he said calmly, "execute battle plan Thor's hammer." The human fleet did not attack directly. Instead, they moved to surround the Vrex, using Mars and its moons as cover. They had spent 50 years studying Vrex tactics from Council records. They knew how the enemy thought, how they fought, how they expected others to behave. War Prince Threx watched his screens with growing anger. How do they have so many ships? Where did they come from? No one could answer him. The intelligence had been clear. Humanity had a small fleet, barely enough to defend their major worlds. But now there were thousands of human vessels and more kept appearing. "All ships, attack pattern red," Threx ordered. "Destroy them." The Vrex moved into their standard formation, a massive wedge designed to punch through enemy lines. It had worked against every species they had ever fought. It did not work against humans. The human ships scattered like startled birds, breaking into small groups that darted around the Vrex formation. They did not fight like a military fleet. They fought like a swarm of angry bees, stinging from every direction at once. Commander Sunam led her fighter squadron through the chaos. She was 28, one of humanity's best pilots with reflexes enhanced by years of training in Earth's gravity. Her fighter was small and fast, armed with missiles that could track targets through faster-than-light jumps. "Blue Squadron, follow my lead," she called to her pilots. "We're going for their command ship's engines." "That's suicide, Commander," one of her pilots protested. "Only if we fail," Sue replied. "And we're not going to fail." Her squadron dove toward the massive Virex flagship, weaving through defensive fire that lit up space like lightning. 3 of her pilots died in the first 30 seconds, but the others kept going, kept flying, kept pushing forward. They reached the flagship's engines and released their missiles at point-blank range. The explosions were beautiful and terrible. The Vrex ship's main engine died, leaving it drifting. "That's for New Sol," Sue whispered. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships were smaller and weaker individually, but they did not fight individually. They fought as units, supporting each other, covering each other's weaknesses. When one ship was damaged, 2 others would move to protect it. When the Vrex expected them to retreat, they attacked. When the Vrex expected an attack, they vanished into the asteroid field. Colonel Mina Beck led the boarding parties. She was a compact woman with short hair and scars on her hands from years of combat. Her Marines wore armor that could survive in vacuum and carried weapons designed to work in zero gravity. "Listen up," she told her troops, as their boarding craft approached a disabled Vrex cruiser. "We go in fast, we hit hard, and we take their bridge. Intelligence wants their computers intact. Try not to blow up anything important." The boarding craft cut through the Vrex hull with plasma torches. Mina was the first one through the hull, firing her weapon at the Virex warriors who rushed to defend their ship. The fighting was brutal and close, exactly the kind of combat humans had been practicing since they lived in caves. The Vrex were bigger and stronger, but humans were faster and smarter. More importantly, humans fought dirty. They used grenades in hallways. They vented atmosphere to slow down pursuers. They hacked the ship's systems to turn the lights off, then used night vision to hunt in the dark. Mina reached the bridge and found the Vrex captain waiting for her. He was huge, covered in battle scars, holding a weapon that could cut through her armor like butter. "Come then, little human," he said. "Let us see if you are worthy." Mina shot him in the knee, then in the other knee when he fell. As he collapsed, she walked past him to the command console. "I'm not here to prove I'm worthy," she said. "I'm here to win." Back at the council chambers, the observers were in chaos. The data streaming in did not make sense. Humanity was supposed to be losing. Instead, they were winning. The Vrex fleet was being torn apart. "This is impossible," one council member said. "Where did they get all these ships?" Dr. Hana Cho stood up in the visitors section. She was a small woman with gray-streaked hair and sharp eyes behind her glasses. "We built them," she said simply. "For 50 years, while you all thought we were building mining stations and research facilities, we were building warships. While you dismissed us as weak and naive, we were preparing for exactly this moment." "But the resources alone," another council member began. "We're very good at using what we have," Hana interrupted. "It's something you learn when you come from a world where resources are limited and enemies are everywhere. You learn to build smart, not big. You learn to hide what matters. You learn to make every single thing serve 2 purposes." She smiled coldly. "Every mining ship can become a warship. Every cargo vessel carries hidden weapons. Every civilian station is also a fortress. That is what humanity built while you were not watching." On the battlefield, the Vrex were retreating. They had lost half their fleet, and the humans showed no signs of stopping. War Prince Threx ordered his remaining ships to fall back and regroup. "This is not over," he transmitted to the human fleet. "We have reinforcements coming. 5,000 fresh ships that have not been touched by battle. When they arrive, you will learn what real power looks like." Admiral Wu Kang received the transmission and smiled. "Tell the War Prince that we look forward to meeting his reinforcements. Tell him that what he has seen so far is just the defense fleet. We have not even shown him our attack fleet yet." It was a bluff, but Threx did not know that, and the bluff worked. The Vrex retreat became faster, more panicked. They ran to the edge of the solar system and jumped away to faster than light, leaving behind hundreds of wrecked ships and thousands of dead warriors. The council chambers were silent. 2,000 species had nothing to say. They had all been certain that humanity would fall. They had been preparing to divide up human territory. Instead, they had witnessed something impossible. Ambassador Tay Park stood and looked up at the Council Supreme. "Earth asks formally for the Council's protection," he said. "We have proven we can defend ourselves. We have shown we are not weak. Under the Council's own laws, we qualify for membership." The silver tree was quiet for a long moment. Then it said, "The Council will consider this request." "You do that," Tay said. "But I should warn you, the Vrex will not stop. They will bring their reinforcements and they will attack again. When they do, you will have to choose. Do you stand with humanity? Or do you let the Vrex continue to threaten the peace you have spent millions of years building?" He did not wait for an answer. He simply turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving the Council to contemplate what they had just witnessed. Behind him, Velmora watched with a small smile on her glowing face. The galaxy had just changed, and most of the Council did not even realize it yet. But she did. She understood that humanity had just taught the oldest civilizations in existence a lesson they had forgotten. Never underestimate someone who has nothing to lose and everything to fight for. The Council met in emergency session. For 3 days, they argued about what to do with humanity. Half wanted to welcome them as members immediately. The other half was terrified of what these aggressive newcomers might mean for the carefully balanced peace that had lasted millions of years. While they argued, War Prince Threx was not idle. His reinforcements arrived exactly when he promised they would. 5,000 fresh warships, the full strength of the Vrex home fleet. He had stripped his empire's defenses completely, calling in every ship from every conquered world. This was going to be his final assault, the attack that would crush humanity forever and restore his honor. "We go to Mars," he told his commanders. "The humans have made it their stronghold. We will break them there, and then Earth will fall easily." His fleet gathered at the edge of human space, a massive armada that covered the stars. The Council observers watching felt their confidence in humanity waver. Yes, the humans had won one battle, but this was 7,000 Vrex warships, the largest military force assembled in 1,000 years. No species could stand against this. Captain J. Lim watched the Vrex fleet approach on his sensors. He was in command of Mars Defense Command now, promoted after the last battle. Around him, engineers worked frantically to repair damaged ships and build new weapons. They had 3 days before the Vrex arrived. 3 days to prepare for what might be humanity's last battle. "Captain," one of his officers said, "we have a communication from Captain Unisio. She says she's ready." Jay smiled. "Tell her to begin." Captain Uniseo had been an engineer before the war. She had designed ships, built stations, and solved problems that others said were impossible. When the war started, she volunteered for military service. Now she commanded a very special vessel, one that she had designed herself. From the outside, her ship looked like a normal cargo hauler. It was big and slow, with huge storage bays and weak weapons. The Vrex intelligence had noted it in their reports and dismissed it as unimportant. That was exactly what Una wanted. Inside those storage bays were not cargo containers. They were ships. Small ships, each one crewed by a single pilot. Each one designed for one purpose, to get close to enemy vessels and disable them. All pilots. "This is Captain CEO," she said over the communication channel. "Remember your training. Get in fast, hit the engines or weapons, then get out. Don't try to be heroes. We need every pilot to survive for the next wave." "Yes, ma'am," 200 voices replied. When the Vrex fleet entered Mars orbit, they expected to see the same defensive formation as before. Instead, they found something new. The human ships were scattered across the entire orbital space, not concentrated in any one location. It was a strange tactic, one that made no military sense. "They're trying to confuse us," Threx said. "Ignore their tricks. All ships advance in formation Delta 7. We'll crush them with pure force." The Vrex fleet moved forward like a hammer, ready to smash through whatever resistance the humans could offer. That's when Una's cargo hauler opened its bays and released 200 attack ships. They were so small that the Vrex sensors barely registered them. They were so fast that Vrex weapons could not track them. And they were everywhere, swarming around the massive Vrex vessels like insects around giants. One by one, Vrex ships began to lose power. Their engines died. Their weapons stopped firing. The small human ships were attaching magnetic charges to critical systems, then darting away before they could be caught. "What is happening?" Threx roared. "Why are my ships going dead?" "They're targeting our power distribution nodes," his tactical officer reported. "The charges are small, but they're placed perfectly. It's like they know exactly where our weak points are. They did know. Colonel Minabaik's boarding parties had captured several wreck ships in the last battle. Engineers had taken them apart, studied every system, mapped every weakness. Now humanity was using that knowledge, but the wrecks had numbers on their side. For every ship that went dark, 10 more remained active. Slowly, inevitably, they pushed forward. The human defense began to crack under the sheer weight of the assault. That's when Admiral Wu Kang played his final card. "All ships," he transmitted, "execute Protocol Anvil." From behind Mars, from the moons of Jupiter, from hiding places throughout the solar system, more ships appeared. Not hundreds this time, thousands. These were the vessels that humanity had been building for 50 years, the ships they had kept hidden even during the last battle. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and massive battleships that had never been seen before. The human fleet had just doubled in size. Threx stared at his screens in disbelief. "This is impossible. Where are they getting all these ships?" "They've been building, sir," someone said quietly. "For decades. They've been building and hiding them, waiting for this moment." The battle became chaos. Ships fired from every direction. Explosions lit up the space around Mars like a second sun. The Vrex were still stronger in total numbers, but the humans were fighting on their home ground, using every advantage they had. Commander Sunam led her fighter squadron through the heart of the battle. She had survived the last fight barely, and now she was back with a new squadron and a score to settle. Her target was Threx's flagship, the massive command ship that coordinated the entire Vrex fleet. "Blue Squadron, we're going in," she said. "This one's for everyone we've lost." Her fighters dove toward the flagship, dodging defensive fire and explosions. Half her squadron died in the approach. But the survivors kept going, kept pushing forward, driven by something the Vrex could not understand. They were not fighting for territory or resources or glory. They were fighting for survival, for their homes, for their species. Sue's last missile struck the flagship's bridge. The explosion was small, but in the right place. The command center went dark. War Prince Threx found himself in darkness, his screens dead, his communication cut off. At the same moment, Colonel Mina Bayek was leading another boarding party. This time her target was different. She was not trying to capture a ship. She was trying to capture a leader. Her Marines cut through the hull of Threx's disabled flagship and fought their way to the bridge. The fighting was fierce. Threx warriors were deadly even in defeat, their natural weapons and strength making them dangerous opponents. But Mina's Marines had something the Vrex did not: experience fighting in close quarters against stronger enemies. On Earth, humans had learned to hunt creatures much bigger and stronger than themselves. They used teamwork, tactics, and tools. Mina found Threx in his command chair, injured but still defiant. "Kill me," he said. "Take your victory." "No," Mina said. She signaled her medics forward. "We're taking you prisoner." "You're going to watch what happens next." What happened next was something the galaxy had never seen. With their leader captured and their command ship disabled, the Vrex fleet began to falter. But instead of pressing their advantage, Admiral Wu Kang did something unexpected. He broadcast a message to all Vrex ships. "This is Admiral Kang of Earth. Your war prince is our prisoner. He is alive and unharmed. You have fought bravely, but you have lost. We offer you a choice. Surrender now and we will treat you with honor. We will return you to your homes. We will even help you rebuild what this war has cost you, or continue fighting, and we will destroy every single ship in your fleet. The choice is yours." For a long moment there was silence. Then one Vrex ship powered down its weapons. Then another. Then 10 more. Within an hour the entire Vrex fleet had surrendered. At the council chambers the observers could not believe what they were seeing. Not just the victory but the mercy. No species had ever offered terms to the Vrex before. No one had ever tried to help them instead of destroy them. Ambassador Tay Park stood before the council once more. This time no one laughed when he spoke. "The Vrex war is over," he said. "Humanity has proven it can defend itself. We have shown we are strong enough to stand among you. But more importantly, we have shown that strength is not just about weapons. It's about knowing when to fight and when to offer peace." Dr. Hanacho stepped forward. "For millions of years, the Council has maintained peace by keeping everyone separate. Each species has its own territory, its own systems, its own defenses. But humanity learned something different from our history. We learned that true peace comes not from isolation, but from cooperation. We propose a new system, one where species work together, share technology, and defend each other. The Soul Accords, Tay said, presenting a document, a mutual defense treaty open to any species that wants to join. We share military technology, coordinate defenses, and promise to help each other against any threat. The Council Supreme was silent for a long time. Finally, Velmora stood. I support this proposal, she said. My people will be the first to sign the Soul Accords. One by one, other species began to agree. Not all of them, not at first. But enough. Enough to change everything. 3 months had passed since the battle at Mars. The galaxy looked different now, though the stars themselves had not changed. What had changed was how the species of the Council saw each other, and how they saw humanity. Admiral Day-Ko stood on the surface of New Sol, breathing air that still smelled of smoke. The Vrex had occupied his home for 2 months before being forced to surrender. Now they were leaving, their ships loaded with warriors who had once thought themselves invincible. Day watched them go and felt something he had not expected to feel. Pity. They fought well, someone said beside him. It was Threx, the former war prince. He was no longer a prisoner. Under the terms of the Soul Accords, he had been released and given a new role, ambassador from the Vrex to the Human Alliance. They killed thousands of my people, Day said quietly. And we paid for it with thousands of ours. Threx replied. His voice was different now, less harsh, more thoughtful. I have learned something from you humans. Victory is not always about who wins the battle. Sometimes it is about what you do after the battle is over. Day nodded slowly. My people want revenge. They want you punished. I know, Threx said. But your Admiral Kang said something to me when I was captured. He said that the purpose of war is not to destroy your enemy. It is to make them no longer be your enemy. I did not understand then. I am beginning to understand now. They watched the last Vrex transport lift off, carrying warriors home to families they had not seen in years. Below the launch site, human and Vrex engineers worked together to repair the damage done by the occupation. It was strange work, former enemies building together what they had destroyed together. On Earth, Captain J. Lim walked through the construction yards that had been his home for so long. They were still building ships, but different ships now. These were not warships hidden in secret. These were explorer vessels, trade ships, and scientific research stations. The Soul Accords had been signed by 400 species. Now those species needed ships to travel between their worlds, to trade goods and share knowledge. Captain Lim, someone called. It was Hyun Song, the engineer who had designed so many of humanity's weapons. He looked happy, happier than Jay had seen him in years. Look at this. The Valari just shared their shield technology with us. If we combine it with our hull design, we can make ships that are twice as safe for civilian use. Jay smiled. That's good. We're going to need safe ships. I hear 300 species want to open embassies on Earth. More than that, Hyun said. Everyone wants to meet the humans who changed the galaxy. They want to understand how we did it. We didn't do it alone, Jay reminded him. Velmora and her people helped us. So did the Karathi and the Baleen, and dozens of other species who were tired of the old system. In the council chambers, the layout had changed. The seats were being rearranged, no longer in circles showing hierarchy, but in groups showing partnerships. Species that had never talked to each other were now sitting together, planning joint projects and shared defenses. Ambassador Tay Park stood at the center, now officially recognized as humanity's representative to the Council Supreme. He was tired. The last 3 months had been endless meetings, negotiations, arguments, and compromises. But as he looked around the chamber, he felt something close to hope. The Soul Accords are working, Velmora said, appearing beside him in that quiet way she had. 400 species in just 3 months. Some of the Council Supreme are worried. Worried about what? Tay asked. About change, Velmora said. The old system lasted for millions of years. Now humanity has turned everything upside down in a few months. Some fear what comes next. What comes next is we work together, Tay said. Species stop being isolated. We share technology, resources, and knowledge. We defend each other instead of watching each other fall. It is a beautiful dream, Velmora said. I hope it lasts. It will last as long as we're willing to fight for it, Tay replied. On Mars, Captain Unisio was teaching a class. Her students were engineers from 20 different species, all learning the principles of human ship design. She showed them how to make vessels that could serve multiple purposes, how to build weapons that could be converted to peaceful uses, how to think creatively about problems. The key, she told them, is to never assume there is only one solution. Humans survived not because we were the strongest or the smartest. We survived because we could adapt. When one approach failed, we tried another. When we could not win with strength, we won with cleverness. When we could not win with cleverness, we won with determination. One student, a being that looked like walking crystal, raised a limb. But how did you know you would win? The Vrex were so much stronger. Una smiled. We did not know we would win. We just knew we would not give up. Sometimes that is enough. At the military headquarters on Earth's moon, Admiral Wu Kang sat with Colonel Mina Bayek, reviewing reports. The war was over, but the work was not. The Soul Accords required a joint defense force, and someone had to organize it. We have volunteers from 200 species, Mina said. They want to learn human tactics. They want to train with our Marines. Then we will teach them, Wu said. But we will also learn from them. They have knowledge we lack, abilities we do not have. Together we will be stronger than any of us alone. Do you think the Vrex will honor the peace? Mina asked. Wu was quiet for a moment. I think they will try. They have pride, but they also have honor. We gave them a chance to rebuild rather than destroying them completely. They will remember that. And if someone else attacks, someone stronger than the Vrex, then we face them together, Wu said simply. But even as he spoke, he knew there were threats they had not yet faced. Reports came in sometimes from the edge of the galaxy. Strange signals, unusual energy readings, hints of something vast and old moving in the darkness between stars. In her private chambers, Dr. Hana Cho studied these reports. She had been examining them for weeks, trying to understand what they meant. The patterns were unusual, unlike anything in the Council's databases. Some of the energy signatures matched records from 3 million years ago, from the time before the Council existed. She called Ambassador Tay Park. We may have a problem, she said. Another war? Tay asked tiredly. Possibly, Hana said, or something worse. The Council's oldest archives mention something from deep space, something that came before and was barely driven away. These new readings match those old records. Tay was silent for a long moment. Then he said, How long do we have? I do not know, Hana admitted. The signals are still far away. Months, maybe years before they arrive, but we should prepare. We will, Tay said. That is what we do best. 6 months after the war ended, the Soul Accords held their first joint exercise. Ships from 400 species gathered in neutral space, practicing coordinated maneuvers and shared tactics. It was chaos at first. Different species had different ways of communicating, different ideas about strategy, different technologies that did not always work well together. But slowly, over days of practice, they began to function as a unit. Humans teaching aliens, aliens teaching humans, everyone learning from everyone else. At the center of it all, Admiral Wu Kang coordinated the effort from the bridge of humanity's new flagship, the Indomitable. Beside him stood young Ensign Quan Li, fresh from the academy, wide-eyed at being part of something so important. Admiral, he asked, do you think we're ready for whatever comes next? Wu looked out at the assembled fleet. Thousands of ships from hundreds of worlds, all flying together under one banner. It was the largest cooperative military force in galactic history. Ready? He said. Probably not. But we will be ready enough. And if we are not ready enough, we will adapt. The Council expected humanity's defeat, Quan said quietly. They did, Wu agreed. They expected us to run or surrender or die quietly. Instead, we showed them what humans are capable of when we refuse to give up. We showed them that cooperation is stronger than isolation. We showed them that new ideas can be better than old traditions. He smiled. Now the galaxy knows that humanity will stand and fight, but they also know that we will offer peace when the fighting is done. That combination, courage and mercy, that is what will change the galaxy forever. On Earth, in a park where humans and aliens now walk together, there was a memorial. Carved in stone were 30 million names. Every human who had died in the war with the Vrex. People came here to remember, to grieve, to promise that such loss would not be forgotten. Tay Park stood before the memorial, thinking about all the lives that had been spent to reach this moment of peace. Was it worth it? Someone asked. He turned to see Velmora standing beside him. I do not know, Tay admitted. 30 million people. Entire cities destroyed. Colonies burned. Also, we could prove we deserve to exist. You did more than prove your right to exist, Velmora said gently. You changed everything. Before humans arrived, the galaxy was stagnant. Species kept to themselves, afraid to share, afraid to trust. You forced us to change. You showed us a better way. At a terrible cost, Tay said. All change has a cost, Velmora replied. But look at what we have gained. 400 species working together. Peace treaties replacing isolation. Technology being shared instead of hoarded. The Soul Accords will save more lives than the war.